Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Titus Andronicus, otherwise known as Shakespeare's glorious play. And I'm going to tell you, we get to hear from Marcus Andronicus in Act 2, Scene 4 today. This one is hard. This one is really hard. This is a very difficult scene. I've known for 4 years that I was going to have to tackle this at some point, and it's still hard. So trigger warning, violence against women, if that's a problem, I would just say skip this one and you'll get the brief recap in future videos, because this one is a lot. I'm very serious on that. This one is a lot, and if you need to move on to the next one, I totally understand. That said, still gonna do it. So yeah, we get to hear from Marcus Andronicus today in Act 2, Scene 4. So the hunt has not gone as most people expected. Aaron buried a bag of gold and gave Tamara a letter so that he would be able to frame Titus's sons, Marcius and Quintus, for the murder of Basanius, when really it was Tamara's sons, Chiron and Demetrius, who killed Basanius and then took Lavinia off to rape her. And Lavinia was begging with Tamara, like, please just kill me quickly, don't let them have their way with me. And Tamara said, I'm not going to deny my sons their prize, and sent Lavinia off with Chiron and Demetrius. Meanwhile, then Saturnius and Titus and everybody else was brought in, and they saw the body of Basanius in this pit that Marcius and Quintus had also fallen into. So they decided that Marcius and Quintus killed Basanius, also in part because of the fake letter that Aaron had written and given to Tamara to give to Saturnius, which also mentioned like a ransom. So then Aaron digs up the bag of gold. So Saturnius is like, they killed my brother, they have to die. And Titus was, begging for some sort of mercy or like some sort of trial or something like that to happen first. But Saturnius is like, no, they're gonna die. And they all go off to execute the boys. And that was the end of Act 2, Scene 3. And at the top of Act 2, Scene 4, we're back with Chiron and Demetrius, who have done what they were going to do to Lavinia, probably many times. And to prevent her from being able to tell anybody what they did to her or who did it, they cut off her hands and cut out her tongue. And they bring her on the stage with no hands and no tongue, and they are mocking her. They're like, oh, you're going to tell on us now? Oh, but you can't talk. Oh, but maybe you could write it down. Oh, but you can't write anything down. So it's pretty horrible. It's kind of brutal. And then they leave, and they just leave her to her own devices at this point, bleeding profusely with no tongue and no hands. And Marcus Andronicus stumbles across her and he says, who is this, my niece, that flies away so fast? Cousin, a word, where is your husband? If I do dream, would all my wealth would wake me. If I do wake, some planet strike me down that I may slumber in eternal sleep. Speak, gentle knees. What stern, ungentle hands have lopped and hewed and made thy body bare of her two branches, those sweet ornaments whose circling shadows kings have sought to sleep in, and might not gain so great a happiness as half thy love? Why does not speak to me? Alas, a crimson river of warm blood, like to a bubbling fountain, stirred with wind, doth rise and fall between thy rosed lips, coming and going with thy honey breath. But sure some Tiresias hath deflowered thee, unless thou shouldst detect them, cut thy tongue. Ah, now thou turnst away thy face for shame. And notwithstanding all this loss of blood, as from a conduit with their issuing spouts, yet do thy cheeks look red as Titan's face, blushing to be encountered with a cloud. Shall I speak for thee? Shall I say 'tis so? Oh, that I knew thy heart, and knew the beast, that I might rail at him to ease my mind. Sorrow concealed like an oven stopped doth burn the heart to cinders where it is. Fair Philomela, she but lost her tongue, and in a tedious sampler sowed her mind. But lovely niece, that mean is cut from thee. A crafter Tiresias hast thou met withal, and he hath cut those pretty fingers off that could have better sewed than Philomel. Oh, had the monster seen those lily hands tremble like aspen leaves upon a lute, and made the silken strings delight to kiss them, he would not then have touched them for his life. Or had he heard the heavenly harmony which that sweet tongue hath made, he would have dropped his knife and fell asleep as Cerberus at the Thracian poet's feet. Come, let us go and make thy father blind, for such a sight will blind a father's eye. 1 hour's storm will drown the fragrant meads. What will whole months of tears thy father's eyes? Do not draw back, for we will mourn with thee. Oh, could our mourning ease thy misery? And that's the end of Act 2, Scene 4. So I think it's pretty obvious what that's all about. Marcus Andronicus finds his niece mutilated, doesn't realize how badly at first, but comes to the discovery that she's missing not only her hands, but also her tongue. He makes the connection that somebody must have violated her and then deprived her of any sort of means of saying who did it. And he is mortified by that and furious at whoever did it and wants to be able to seek revenge. And he doesn't understand quite how somebody could have destroyed someone as beautiful as Lavinia, both her voice and her hands, like the musical ability. She used to play the lute. And so he's grieving for the loss of the things that she used to be able to do, and grieving with her and mourning with her, and then has to take her to her dad to show her dad what has happened to her. So it's hard. It's really hard. If you've ever seen the Julie Taymor version of this film that has Anthony Hopkins as Titus Andronicus, the scene where she's discovered, she's like standing on a tree stump and she's got branches coming out of her wrists, and when Marcus comes upon her, it's just like the camera zooms in and she's standing there and she opens her mouth and this ribbon of blood comes out, and it's hauntingly beautiful with an emphasis on the haunting. So yeah, that's, sorry, that one always gets me. And it's gonna get even more fun from here on out. So yeah, if you made it to the end of this episode, congratulations, we've made it to the end of Act 2. We've had so much death, so much mutilation, and 2 marriages, one of which has already been dissolved because the husband got killed and the wife raped and mutilated. But yeah, there's still 3 more acts of this play to go, and he's not quite done being gross yet. So hang in there. Come on back tomorrow for more. And thank you for sticking with me on this one. I'll see you tomorrow. Mwah.